Welcome everyone to Already Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Tara. We talk about TV shows here. The year is 2022 and the name of the show is Babylon 5. This is season 4, episode 11. It's called Lines of Communication, so full spoilers for the episode. As always, we have a couple of big things progressing in here. Obviously the Mars talks and the Resistance, that's going on still. So we'll talk about Franklin and Tara's favourite character, Cole's adventures. In a little bit. We also have a possible new threat emerging. Well, not new technically. We kind of were aware of them, but now we have a name and a bit more context. We have Minbari shenanigans going on, possible Minbari homeworld problems to deal with, and the weirdest thing we've ever predicted that came true happened this episode.
You know, if I was watching our show, I would think that we were bullshitting everybody and that we had already seen this show.
Because Tara started watching the episode a little bit before I did and messaged me or whatever, right, just before I started, saying, I think we have mastered the technique of predicting things on TV shows. And I went, I wonder what we got right. Was like, and then I start watching, and then Sheridan starts talking about starting his own like news broadcast, and I'm like, we said this, Bab TV.
Yeah, with Ivanova. Although I think we said Bridge Boy, but Ivanova would still be in charge.
Sure, yes. Instead, Sheridan's like, no, you know what, Ivanova, you look like you are strong, you're beautiful, you command the screen, you get presence.
But do you have the legs for TV broadcasts? I'm sorry, I was thinking of Bombshell.
Yeah. To be fair, I think the ISN news broadcast we keep seeing is like purely desk up. We don't.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a clear desk.
No, I don't think so. There's a little spicy joke actually when Sheridan, like, because he gets this idea and he comes and wakes Ivanova up in the middle of the night, and she's just, and this is the thing, I think this is an intentional joke because I think there's been like not that many, but just enough. There's been like maybe 3 different scenes like this throughout the course of the show where Ivanova's been woken up from bed in her
She
claws.
doesn't sleep well. Mm-hmm.
And I think her cracking a line about it and saying, can I just for once get an uninterrupted night of sleep, actually kind of made me laugh, because I feel like, yeah, we do see this often enough. But yeah, Sheridan comes in and starts rambling about his ideas, like, come on, let's go to the war room, I got an idea to show you something, I need to go. And she's like, can I get dressed first? And he's like, oh, I hadn't noticed. And she gets like, you hadn't noticed? What am I, chopped liver?
I'm hot, goddammit.
Cole's noticed.
I mean, I don't know what you're laughing at. I didn't say anything.
Sometimes I look. Much like Ivanova, sometimes just the glare is enough.
I'm just trying to be restrained here. All
okay.
right.
So, also, you know how like I use sound bites on live streams from things that we've said when tips came in? Yeah.
I didn't know you did that.
Oh, okay. Right. Well, I do that, right? And one of them is one that you said a long time ago, where you said, I think talking's it's not my area of expertise. I think that's the line.
I didn't give you permission to do that.
Yeah, I didn't ask for it.
Well, please stop.
I know, it's like a staple now. It's a staple of the stream.
I don't approve.
That's great. Yeah, but I think I'm hot, goddammit is now going to replace that line.
No, I don't approve of that.
Because I think that's really funny. Anyway.
Out of context. Not cool.
Anyway, so he has this idea. Because he's watching these broadcasts. He keeps watching ISN. And Ivanov even says to him at one point, why are you still watching this? You're just making yourself mad. He's like, I'm collecting intel. I'm collecting intelligence, so I know what I'm fighting. But he finally gets the idea to turn the war room into a news station, and where they're going to broadcast. He compares it to a time in France during World War II, where the Resistance would broadcast for an hour each night from a different location in secret to get the real news of the war out, so that people, and maybe even convince some Germans to turn themselves in and, you know, defect. Which is funny, actually. I don't want to bring real world things into this, but just on that particular point, I saw this week, I think Ukraine are offering like pilots from Russia, like rewards for like giving them their planes and just turning themselves in. So I don't know. I just thought that was an interesting.
I haven't seen that that headline, but
Yeah, I think I saw that this week.
interesting.
Which is just, I don't know, that was an interesting thing. And yeah, obviously very serious situation going on right now. I'm not why I try to make light of it, but
I suppose wars have a lot of parallels.
it was just when Sheridan brought that up, it made me think of that. But yeah, so he wants to broadcast news from Babylon 5 and what's actually going on out here, because would you believe that ISN are still talking about him having Minbari imposter syndrome, or whatever they're calling it?
Yeah, he's just making himself upset listening to that the talk radio.
He's just getting riled up, and honestly, it's an amusing performance. I think Boxlighter here actually comes across quite like funny when he gets like agitated by things. So I was enjoying that. Of course, Delenn gets called away. We have another Minbari shows up and tells her that some Minbari ships, religious ships that is, from the religious cast, are being attacked on the outskirts of their space. Or sorry, they're not being attacked, but their allies that they're supposed to be protecting, that they've made a pact with, are being attacked. And it wants Delenn to come and, because basically explains the Grey Council being gone now, the factions have kind of split up, and the warrior cast have no interest in helping anything the religious cast has set up or done or doing. To the point where it could lead to a civil war. That's kind of reiterated throughout the episode, that might be leading to this case where they might start fighting. And we hear Minbari don't kill Minbari a couple of times, but then he tells a story later on. He tells a story later on that sounds like, okay, they didn't like shoot them, but they made people walk in like terrible conditions until they all died from, exposure.
It sounded like they froze to death or something.
Yeah. So I mean, that's still murder. Like I'm still going to blame them for that. I may not be a direct murder, but it's still murder. So he's a bit of an overactor, right? And this is something we come to with guest stars on this show. This guy's a bit theatrical in his delivery at times.
Acting.
Yes, I'm acting. But Delenn goes out with him with some White Star Fleet to address this situation, but then it turns out that the mysterious attackers turn out to be this race that they've not encountered before, called the Drak. And it turns out
we get a new Halloween mask.
Yes, but it turns out that our Minbari guy here is actually already in cahoots with them, and has brought Delenn to try and sort of like form more of an alliance with them. So the idea being that the religious cast of Minbari will have outside allies should the warrior cast go to war with them. That's this guy's plan. And he's motivated largely because they did cast out some of his family from a location that led to a lot of them dying. So he's got motivation. Things are breaking down back home. It's this idea, more than anything, the idea that Delenn has been so absorbed in what's going on in the greater galaxy and what's going on with the war and her own stuff in Babylon 5 that she's not paying as much attention to her home world, and that this stuff is brewing and it's getting serious, and she has to kind of give that some attention, which is where, we lead to the end of the episode where she makes the choice. I'm leaving for a while. I'm going home. I'm going to deal with this. So on and so on. So yeah, the big kicker here though is that this species, because you were alluding to the bad mask. So an ambassador comes on a board, and from a distance I thought, this looks kind of neat. There's like an effect on how he moves. There's like a sort of like hazy kind of like movement effect to him. But then when it went in for like a closer shot, I'm like, oh, the effect's still there, but I can kind of tell how bad the outfit is now that we're close.
Now we see why there's an effect on it.
Which, because I thought it was just going to be an effect because, they want to give them this cool, like, almost like how the Shadows had that, like, camouflage look. Like, this is going to be their thing. And I thought, that's just kind of neat. But when it went in close, I was like, I've got a feeling that we're not going to see these guys too much. And the reason why they've not maybe spent a lot of money on this honestly kind of crappy mask and outfit is because they're mostly going to be talked about rather than actually interacted with on a person-to-person level.
That's okay.
We'll see their ships, we'll see things like that, but I don't think we're going to see a lot of them.
It's another Dra species, like a DRA something. Drak? Draki?
Yeah. Oh, just Drak.
Drak. Okay.
Just Drak.
Yeah.
I've said it the same way every time. Why are you confused? Drak.
Okay, I got it.
So immediately Delen's a bit suspicious, and he says that, oh, we recently had to evacuate. And of course I'm like, well, there's one planet we know of that had to be evacuated in the not too distant past. So, and Delen's of course thinking the exact same thing, that we are the audience, which is that this is the species that fled Zahadum right before it went boom. And it's like, I mean, how evil they may or may not be is maybe something to maybe question, but
they were aligned with the shadows, clearly.
Yeah, they were living with the shadows on that planet, and like, here Delen's
they
like,
look evil.
They look pretty evil, which is maybe judging a little, don't get me wrong.
A little bit, yeah, a little.
But I guess what we mean to say there is that they look evil in the sense of how they're presented in a TV show.
They got red eyes.
They got the music. There's the air of mystery about them.
They wear cloaks.
Yes. So the everything about the way they're presented to is just saying they're probably evil. So go with it. But they clearly didn't know who they were meeting, but it seems like they might know who Delen is when they actually do get introduced to her, because Delen's
at first
kind of a big
they say
deal.
they're not interested in what her name is, but then when the new guy says it at the end of their conversation, all of a sudden they are interested in the name Delen.
Yeah, she's the one who was like second in command in the war against the Shadows, so all of a sudden they've got an interest. Yeah, so this was mostly interesting stuff. I liked. Ultimately, they end up in battle, right? They're going to go. They know that they can't escape too quickly because they'll get shut down. And one of the White Stars does get destroyed. And Lanier thinks they're still just going to escape after that. And Delen goes into kind of war mode and is like, "No, we're not leaving. Like, they took down one of our ships and everything. They worked with the Shadows. We're ending this now." And sure enough, we have a big battle scene where they ultimately kill all their ships, and
we get General Delen back for another scene.
Which is neatly set up, actually, early in the episode. There's that scene with Sheridan where she says she's going off to deal with this, and Sheridan gets a little bit worried. He's like, "Oh, send Lanier, this could be dangerous," which I thought was funny, actually, that he's like, "Send Lanier, send him off to the danger."
I mean, he's got his monk martial arts.
Yes. Which actually, Joe, I really like, is see when the other Minbari turned on Delen for a bit. And he turns out not to be such a bad guy. He's more just a fool than he is a villain.
Yeah.
But when he first turns on Delen and holds her at gunpoint, if you notice the way Lanier's standing at his console for the rest of the scene, he's got like the hand like sort of like that, with his fingers kind of like in the pose, as if he's ready to go into martial arts at any point. Like, if the opportunity arises, he's going to do it.
Please just let me do a spin kick.
But yeah, so she's talking to Sheridan, and she says she's, I can't remember what word she uses, but she loves, or she's she's touched by the way he's fallen for who she is now, but don't forget who she has been and who she still is. Like her other parts, the Delen who fought in the war, the Delen who's done these other things. This idea being that she doesn't need your protection. She can go and like command a series of ships on her own. And he responds to this with a smile and says, "Of course, you can go." But I think that sets up nicely for this attitude change, this moment here where she does say, "No, we're not leaving. Like, we're winning this fight."
Yeah.
But obviously this isn't all of the Drac. There's more Drac out there. There's more of them.
Yeah, it was like 5 ships or something, maybe a little bit more.
But this was a message, if nothing else.
Yeah. And then Delen's now going off to Minbari to, I guess, act as a mediator or to try to stop a civil war from happening. I wonder if this is something we're going to see, or if this is Delen's just not going to be in a few episodes.
Well, part of me thinks, well, we followed a lot of Londo on Centauri Prime, but at the same time, we've had a lot of Delen recently, and we've not had a lot of Londo the last few episodes, so this could be a good reason to like have Delen do mostly things off camera, and we can focus on other characters.
The way it's set up, it kind of seems like an off-camera thing to me.
Yeah, I agree. It's the way she because she kind of ultimately sums up and says, Sheridan, you're going to have to get a little dangerous to like fight this like sort of like Cold War that you're now in, and I feel like you'd be more comfortable doing that if I'm not here. And it's a sweet thing because it's like he doesn't want to put the station at risk while she's there because he cares too much about her. So it's kind of like, now you can go be the soldier, you can go be the commander that you are instead of thinking of me first, kind of thing, which is a nice sentiment. And The scene plays it. So yeah, I imagine we'll probably, even if it is mostly off camera, I imagine we'll get glimpses here or there. Although, I mean, that said though, I wouldn't be surprised if this is truly like we just don't see a thing until she makes a big return with like an army or something at one point, like a fleet of ships. Like, I'm coming to save the day.
Minbari is now back in balance thanks to my work that took about 3 episodes, and now I've come back to make babies and get married.
Would you be bothered though that she solves things back in the homeworld off camera?
I don't know if I care too much about the Minbari homeworld, like the civil war that might be happening. At least it's not set up in a way that I care about at the moment.
Yeah, because it was the way you said that there, as if I don't know if you were necessarily trying to be dismissive of it, like saying, "Oh, she's fixed it in 3 episodes," as if it's not a big deal. But
well, I mean, the more important Delenn plot is on the station.
Oh yeah, okay. Back to the babies and the marriage and all that. Because I think it's fine in the sense that we've dealt so much with Centauri and Narn problems, right? And we don't necessarily spend a lot of time in the Narn homeworld. I mean, barely any, if anything.
Yeah, honestly, like the Civil War plot doesn't really sound like it would be interesting. Babylon 5. I don't know. It just doesn't sound like it's the way it's set up doesn't sound that interesting to me.
I get what you're saying. Like the idea that this doesn't affect most of the main characters, so this is something that Delenn will go off and deal with on her own. And she said she's going to reform the Grey Council or something akin to a Grey Council and bring them back together. So that's cool. But you know, we've seen enough of the Narn stuff and the Centauri Prime stuff without necessarily spending a lot of time on both. I mean, we spent a lot of time on Centauri Prime, but almost no time on Narn. And I think that what's interesting about that is that the show has kind of done it in different ways, so there's almost no repetition for how we've dealt with this. Some of them have spent more time actually seeing the effects. A lot of it, obviously, we see through our key characters, which is, you know, Londo, Jakar, and Delenn, where we see it all sort of filtered through them. But we've had a lot of time with Londo on Centauri Prime, actually seeing these problems play out and seeing him having to deal with the Emperor. With Jakar, we see how he then becomes this, like, hero or leader to the other people that I mean, obviously, ultimately, he rejected that role, but we see it kind of through that lens. And then with Delenn, like, you know, after this episode, I think we can let her go off and do this off camera, because it doesn't feel necessarily like this is something that she has to, this is like personal business she has to get through on her own that isn't necessarily what we're dealing with. And I'm sure it'll have an effect for us later in the show's plot, but it's not necessarily something that we have to sort of spend time as a plot. And maybe we will. Maybe we're completely wrong. Next episode there'll be a whole subplot on Minbar with Delenn going around and everyone going, look at her with all that hair.
Yep. Can't trust a woman who doesn't take care of that, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what their stigma would be about the hair.
Well, I don't think, what do you mean take care of? I mean, it's not, I don't get the impression the rest of them are having to shave their heads. I think they just naturally don't have hair.
Well, I mean, to like blend into society, you probably would. Because she's still got the bone.
Sure. So you're saying that they would be expecting her to get rid of the hair?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I don't think there's like a pressure on them in general to do that though, because I think they all just naturally look that way. Like they all just have the bald and the bone.
Yeah, they probably, well, I don't know, they seem like they have some sort of self-care ritual.
Oh, if they ever, I mean, yeah, but not hair related. If they ever do like a series of books like about like, okay, here's like a book just about the Minbari, and everything they do, Bald and the Bone is what you call it. That's the title.
The Bald and the Bone.
The Bald and the Bone. Yes.
This is already enough like a soap opera in a good way.
I'm not saying they should do it in the show. I would say this is like merch that you buy as a fan with just like trivia about Minbari. About all these rituals. I mean,
the bone and the beautiful.
Because we know there's like 50 rituals left before the wedding. We're not going to see all of them. We'll see a handful of them maybe. So,
you want a book of rituals?
So, well, you put the rituals in. You put maybe some about the crystals and stuff that she talked about, like the glistening at the right time of year and all that. Like you have a chapter on the geography of the planet. You know, nerd shit.
Oh yeah.
I mean, hell, Star Trek has like, you know, here's schematics for the Enterprise. We worked out where everything was in the ship. When they definitely didn't think about that when they did the original Star Trek show, there was no way when they designed all those rooms they actually gave that much thought to, oh, this is where it's all laid out on the ship. Like, someone did this retroactively later to make it work.
Oh yeah.
Which is fine. Like, I'm not complaining. I'm just like, it wasn't important. It wasn't a big deal.
Right. Having to work out how the turbo lift worked, I'm sure was pretty tough.
Oh,
Because
sure.
you think, oh, it's just an elevator, but it's so much more complicated than that.
Yeah. I'm still not a fan of how Discovery showed like what it's like around that when it's moving and it's like a city. That was stupid.
Well, it has to be like a lot of open space, but anyway. They don't have to deal with that anymore because they'll have personal transport.
Sure. Yes. Exactly. Anyway, so yeah. But the line stuff, yeah, the Minbari stuff is interesting. It's like a slice of life from that corner of the universe that I suspect will mostly happen off camera. But
yeah,
maybe we'll be proven wrong.
Me too.
But hey, so let's talk about Mars.
Okay.
I mean, it's not much to it. Franklin gives a big speech, trying to convince everyone there, all the resistance, to like align themselves with B5. They're dubious because B5's not intervened that much, and they're not convinced that like they should be fighting against Clark. They want to just like take down the entire regime and the government. And like Franklin's like, no. We're not taking down the position of like Earth president. We're just taking away the corrupt president. We can focus on everything else after that. But Sheridan's promising to try and help make Mars a free state, and he'll go through with that. It was a really good moment here because the resistance guy says something like, "Oh yeah, maybe I'll sprout wings and fly to New York," and Franklin says, "Yeah, coming from you, that's a bunch of bullshit. But if Sheridan said that, I'd ask him to pick me up a bagel when he arrives." I thought that was a nice little bit of dialogue.
Yeah, bagels are still a thing in the future.
Oh, that wasn't my thought, but yeah, sure.
It's comforting.
Yeah, it just that was some good dialogue, because not all the dialogue in some of this stuff is necessarily the best. Like, I like Sonya Blade lady, who's like the leader of the Resistance, but some of her, like when she's like chewing out the guy because they've put an explosive in a hotel. Which killed civilians, which is pretty dark. It's a dark, random thing for these people to be doing sort of in the background. And she's like, no, you killed 10 civilians. You don't just do this. But like, ultimately, he slapped in the wrist and yelled at. It's like, he killed civilians. There should be consequences for that.
I don't know if I'm just all that interested in this plot line. This was kind of like an okay episode for me. I don't know. I just wasn't really into this. I know like Cole is there and I'm immediately checked out, but like, I'm not really into this Mars plotline yet.
I feel like this is almost like the Minbari stuff. I feel like this is more about setting up stuff that's going to be important later, rather than it's like a plot that's playing out to conclusion right now. But I mean, I could be wrong on that. But I feel like this is like a piece that's been set up so that later on, when like all these different alliances that have been made or these contacts that have been made, will like play into something larger later, and it'll feel quite rewarding, I imagine, when we get there. But
sure, yeah, I bet this is better on a rewatch after you've completed the series. But I don't know, at the moment today, maybe I'm just in a funk, but I just wasn't really into the episode, or I haven't really been into any of these like Franklin and Cole Mars storylines.
I mean, I would say I'm not going to defend it that much. I'm not like super like this is the best thing ever stuff.
Yeah.
There's some humor here, like, and so there's some jokes about blonde lady being into Franklin.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the episode, when Sheridan and Delenn are like saying, "Oh, let's go to dinner because you're leaving tomorrow. Let's go and have dinner and spend the night together," and they're talking about Franklin and Cole, and he says, "Oh, I bet Franklin's got his hands full," and I was like, "Oh, this is where you cut to him having sex. That's the joke, right?" Because she asked him out to dinner. And instead, I mean, they effectively do that joke because you hear her, going, "Oh, Stephen," from the distance. Which, by the way, like, Cole's on guard duty, right? And, like, he's close enough to, like, where she sleeps that he's hearing sex noises. That's just a bit weird layout decisions in their base, is all I'm saying.
Not just sex noises, but, like, you can hear the dialogue.
Yeah, you can hear the name. But he's playing with his pike. He's hearing sex and playing with his pike, and I don't know. There's just this pike being like a compensation for him is just like they're really playing it up now at this point.
Sure. Actually, the thing that did make me laugh was, I guess the maneuver that they used that the Minbari used to like fight off those new evil people was called yes, the Drac. It'll stick eventually. It was called
It's not a hard
the
word.
skin dancing or something, and immediately I was like, Dylan, you don't have to talk about that with Lanier. He was there.
What they should do if they really wanted to crack a joke here is have her like give a great order, have her look over at Lanier, and Lanier just sort of look at her and go, woohoo.
No, they never need to bring that up again. That's way too cringe.
I'm joking. I'm not being serious.
My joke was better.
Know when I'm making a joke, and know when I'm making an actual. If I'm suggesting something stupid, I'm definitely joking. Okay.
I'm not making fun of you. I'm making fun of the line "woohoo." It was cringe.
Okay, fair enough. I got a little chuckle. So there's a moment where Cole's saying, "Hey, she's into you, Stephen." Like, you know, like blah blah blah, and he basically says, "Oh, I'll bet you 50 quid that she's into you, right?" And then she comes out and says, "Hey, Stephen, your hotel got blown up, so would you like to have dinner with me? It's, you know, it won't be much," but he's like, "Yeah, sure." And then she turns to Cole and says, "We're short on guard duty. Do you want to fill in?" I actually thought that was a funny line, and Cole's reaction to it was amusing. He's like, "Guard duty? That's what I get. You get dinner with her, I get guard duty."
Yeah.
I thought that was a funny moment. Like,
sure.
for all the shit
it was
we
passable for funny.
For all the shit we give Cole, I thought that was an amusing moment, okay?
I'm not going to stop giving him shit, though.
Like, I think he's the weakest character on the show too, right? I'm on your side, by and large. I'm saying...
I'm not saying you're not.
I'm just saying that occasionally you can acknowledge that he's in a decent moment or a decent
I said it was
thing.
passable.
Oh, so hard to please.
That's right.
Mm-hmm. Oh well, yeah. So yeah, in a lot of ways, a low-key episode again. There's a lot of like world building going on right now. The last couple of episodes in this have been very world buildy, and I feel like it's because we did have this big conclusion, so we're building all this stuff now that we're leading to in this now, like the last 2/3 of this. I mean, we're halfway through now, but like ever since we hit the episode 7, which was this is the finale of the story we've been doing for 2.5 seasons. Now we're kind of in build mode again, so it's kind of which I don't think is unwelcome. I think the change of pace is kind of nice actually, after like all the everything's the end of the galactic world kind of thing that we had for so long. Yeah,
which is people are still having to, or at least Franklin and Cole are having to convince people that really was happening still.
Yeah, and I do like that they point out that like that war and the people involved in that war are clearly behind what was going on in Mars and Earth. Like, you need to realize that was effective, even if it didn't on paper or at first glance look like it. Like, that was a result of the war. Like, this stuff's all connected, so you're gonna have to make peace with that. So,
yep.
So yeah, fine world building episode. With a goofy alien costume, admittedly.
Yeah, it was pretty silly.
Really cheesy. I mean,
even the movements were kind of silly. Like, the effect was fine, but like, I could just imagine a guy in the costume just, ooh, I'm a good ghost.
That's fair. So sometimes your suspension of disbelief can work better than others. Like you know, the rocking about for when there's like shaking on Star Trek is completely fine, but it is really funny when you watch like stabilized footage of it, where the shaking's taken away and they're all just sort of going like this like, yeah, right. I mean, but it is convincing, don't get me wrong. Like, the trick of just shaking the camera makes it work. Like, it just completely works. Yeah. But so some tricks work, some don't. And
there's a lot of suspension of disbelief in the original tracks.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So, but there you go. That's lanes of communication. A lot of stuff going on. I can't wait to see Ivanova's TV broadcasting debut.
Me too. Hopefully next episode.
Welcome to Channel 5. Because Babylon 5. Yeah. Bab 5.
Babcom is gone network.
She's going to go like super stern with it. She'll be like, here's the news tonight. And like no smile face, no little quirky like smiles to like draw people in or make them feel comfortable with what they're hearing. Just
There's going to be a learning curve for her for sure. Yeah.
just the facts. Oh, please let Bridge Boy be the co-host. Like no,
that would be so great.
or he can be like, or if there's not a co-host, like he can be like the weather guy. Like so I know over to the weather. Like Bridge Boy's over there with his pointer.
It's dark and cold.
He's got a star chart. And today around Babylon 5, it is still a vacuum. So yeah, back to you, Ivanova. Hey, there could be an asteroid or something coming one day that might be relevant to mention.
Sure.
It's not impossible a meteor might fly through it.
Some solar flares, maybe?
Yeah. Random donkey floating through space. I don't know. I thought that was a good bit of random humor, but Tara's just completely no
I'm
selling
not really
it.
into random humor.
All right, well,
I stopped watching Family Guy a long time ago.
how am I branded a Family Guy fan after that stupid joke? Come on now, how dare you?
That's definitely a Family Guy joke.
Like Family
Anyway,
Guy,
we're done.
Family Guy was all right for like 5 seasons, and then it just went down the toilet. Okay,
That's way too many seasons to be okay with it.
it was all right. While Stewie wanted to kill his mom, it was hilarious, and then it completely went down. I mean, admittedly, it's been like 10 years since I've watched those seasons, so I may not feel the same way now. But but after that, it went down the toilet, and it's still. I think it's still going. Is it still going? I think it's still
I
going.
have no idea.
I don't know. I had like 2 spin-offs or something. I don't know. Anyway, that's Babylon 5 for the week. Thank you very much for joining us. You can, of course, let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments down below.
That's right. And we are not watching the Orville.
No, we're not watching the Orville. But we will be watching the TV movies that were made for Babylon 5 in the order that were released after the show.
I saw that there were some questions about
every
that.
so often there'll be a question saying, are you going to watch the TV movies? I'm like, yeah, we're going to watch them. Don't worry. It'll happen. Before we start,
Peter's got it all planned out.
Yeah, before we start our next show, which is definitely not.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say it was definitely not Lex. But
What? This has not been decided yet. Well, the next show is going to be Babylon 5, the reboot, because it's been delayed. So we'll have time to watch Crusade and all that
sure.
too.
We do plan because obviously the new Babylon 5 will only be on half the year, so we do plan on doing another sci-fi show when it's off season.
Well, let's finish Twilight Zone first.
But we're debating what show to do. And yes, we'll finish classic Twilight Zone. Like, look, it's not my fault Paramount Plus wants to give us new Trek constantly
so
all year
much.
round.
I mean, I'm straight to my veins, please, but also reviewing them is tough.
I bet you're glad that I decided not to do the animated shows.
Oh, your loss. They're great.
Oh, but would you really want to have the animated shows on the schedule too, on the slate?
No,
Exactly.
But just when Star Trek is done, we're not replacing it with anything. Okay, put my foot down. I'm just here for Star Trek.
Yeah, we're supposed to be replacing it with that. And
Yeah, I know, but I know how you operate.
I'm not going to replace. I'm happy to have something in the B5 slot and something in the Twilight Zone slot. Those are the 2 slots. Those are the 2 slots that will be replaced with other things.
No, when Twilight Zone's done, it's done.
Is that only because there's Trek now forever?
There's so much Trek.
I mean, I can be on board with that because there's so much Trek. But if Trek ever does finish, we can replace Twilight Zone with something.
We'll discuss it. See, you talked me into doing so many shows that I.
This is.
Anyway, we're done with this. We're done with this conversation.
Why did we even get onto this? This is your fault.
This episode is fine. Looking forward to the next one.
This is such your fault. I even brought up these other things.
Thank you everyone for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe. Check out our Patreon page. It's patreon.com/MouthFuzzTV. And your donations are greatly appreciated, and you get a bunch of bonuses for them, including at the $5 level, you can get these reviews 6 days early. Thank you very much.
That was smooth. You went into it yourself. I didn't even need to set you up.
Yep.
I should let you do the whole outro now. I should just say, Tara, take us home.
Okay, I guess that means we're done.
Well, you have to say the final bit as well.
Have you got any vanilla?
No, I don't say that on Babylon 5.
Don't give away the homeworld.